thank God that we have the great opportunity to share in the Men Fellowship Week, and guided by the theme, godliness with contentment is great gain. We would love to engage with this call to godliness and contentment taken from 1 Timothy 6, verse 6, as we observe our role in environmental stewardship. Our discipline in godliness can be greatly reflected in environmental stewardship. And what is stewardship? From the Greek word eukonomia, that is eukos standing for a house and konomia for law. It means from Genesis 1:26 moving forward, God gave man a space, a house to manage and to be a good steward. And we are glad to have with us, through the rays of hope, this great engagement with the area of environmental stewardship.
Welcome to this week's episode of Rays of Hope. And as Reverend Kyra, the director of Pcmf, that is a Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, has introduced, this week we want to focus on areas of stewardship. And today on the Rays of Hope, we want to see where hope lies when it comes to stewardship. The Bible says in Psalms 24 that the earth is the Lord's and all its fullness, and the people who live therein. Everything that we have, we see, belongs to the Lord. And God has put us here as stewards. And as Rev Kyra has introduced, actually, it's in God's economy. We are in God's household, and we are also supposed to take care of what God has given us. So today, we focus on environmental stewardship. And just to remind us that the theme of the PCMF Mission Week this year is taken from 1 Timothy 6 and verse 6, about godliness with contentment, which is actually great gain. And may God help us. And today, we are very excited to be joined by Dr. Joram K. Kagombe. He's the Deputy Director, Socio-Economic Policy and Governance at Carefree. Daktari,
okay, thank you.
We're very, very happy to have you on the Rays of Hope program. Yeah. It's an honor, it's a privilege to, to catch up with you within your busy schedules and to have this sitting with you. Okay. I've talked about Carefree. Yeah. So please say hello to the viewer and also introduce to us what's Carefree briefly.
Hello viewers, my name is Dr. Joram Kagombe, as it has been mentioned. I'm a Deputy Director in Carefree, but I'm also an elder in PCA Church in Nairobi North Presbytery, Kahawa Farmers Parish. Carefree Kenya Forestry Research Institute is a state corporation which is mandated to do research in forest and arid natural resources. And we are supposed to do research and also disseminate this research to stakeholders. We are also supposed to create partnership and network with our stakeholders and also do capacity building. Where we are is Carefree headquarters, but we have stations all around the country which covers all our agro-ecoregion zones, and we aim to get stations which will serve each and every county. And our role mainly is to provide technical advice to support forestry, not just to Kenya Forest Service, but to everybody who is doing forestry in this country. And we know that together we should be able to achieve more. And church and all the institutions of faith-based, they are part and parcel of our stakeholders, because, as you have said, the environment was created by God, and we have a duty and responsibility to take care of this environment.
Wonderful and well said, and it's good to see that you're also at least you're also a member of the PCMF. So your faith also comes in to play as you do your work, as you take your responsibility. And today we are talking about environmental stewardship. Do you see that connecting with the theme of the PCMF this year about godliness with contentment? Is there a connection between stewardship and that?
There is a big connection because first of all, if we are godly in what we are doing, a lot of evils which are happening could not happen, because as a society, as a nation, even as individuals, we have been able to damage our environment to a greater extent, because God created a very good environment, but we have not been able to take care of it. And also we have not been able to be satisfied with what we have. You find that a lot of environmental degradation is due to greed that people have. You find that even when we have forests, which we know that they are key to the country, you find some people want to convert forests to be their own individual farms, to be places where they can build houses. So you end up losing the environmental good to individual good. And so if one is really godly, then you cannot go doing those things, because as godly people, we should take care of our neighbor and also take care of the environment, because when you don't take care of the environment, the whole nature will start being in problems, and we can end up actually suffering, the whole country suffering. And we shall later be talking about what it means when we talk of suffering in the context of climate change.
Wow, wonderful, well said. And because again we are reminded in Genesis that when God created the world, it was good.
Yeah.
Everything he did was good. And so if we are having problems, they are problems of our own making, actually, not being good stewards of what God has given us, and maybe also allowing greed to take over, as you're saying. May God help us. So are there principles that you would like to give us of environmental stewardship?
Yeah, in environmental stewardship, if you look at the Bible, the principles are there. First of all, in Genesis 1, God created everything. And that is the first thing we should understand, that everything belongs to God. And so the resources we have, all belong to God. And then, still in Genesis and also in 1 Corinthians 3:9, we are told that Christ owns everything. So he did not only create, but he also owns. He owns everything. And so if we know that Christ owns everything, then that becomes the starting point also. And as we become steward with the Lord, Christ delegates responsibility. And when he delegates responsibility, you see it in 2 Corinthians 6:1, where God delegates responsibility to us. Because at the end of the day, we were told, he told the man to be fruitful and multiply and subdue. So this responsibility of being fruitful, responsibility of multiplying and subduing is our responsibility. And we have God-given responsibility to do that. Then also, Christ has we have personal responsibility towards stewardship. What we should do as an individual. And that is also very important as we talk about stewardship. As we do stewardship, we also need to have also some of the resources that we are using, we need to do some savings. Because if we cannot use everything for today, we need to think about the future generation. So that in the environment, we talk of sustainability, that we have to use resources today and tomorrow. Then there is also stewardship in giving. And in giving is when we have to think about those needy people that we need to address every day, that we should be able to assist them and also support them. And also there is also stewardship in helping others. So all these principles come together as Christians, that we be custodians, because everything belongs to God. He owns everything, but we have been given big responsibility to be custodian. And that custodian role is where we need to play our role, and that is where we might not have played our role properly.
And that's very well put, Daktari.
Yeah.
Because starting from creation, you know, and ownership, and then the delegation of responsibility, and thinking from also a personal perspective, because some of us know how to, you know, pass the responsibility to others. We think it's a fault of maybe the government or the systems, so we don't see ourselves as, you know, participants in the degradation of our environment, and so that's a good call. Now, we know that there has been an initiative to improve the forest cover, and would like you to educate us on this initiative. Where are we at? But also, how does that again boil down to the environment that we're talking about? Why is the forest cover so important?
The forest cover in this country, you find some documents will say we are at 7.4%. Others will say 5.99%, and all of them are true. It depends on the methods that are being used. But in essence, what we have is about 6%. And the normal practice all over the world is that a country which is doing sustainable and a country which is developing and which is in touch with the nature should have at least 10%. And so we have a journey to make from 6 to 10%. And this is a responsibility which our government took seriously. At first, we had the government wanted to achieve this by year 2030. But later, the president reduced this, but he wanted to achieve this by year 2022, which is next year.
That's next year.
So what it means, we have to do concerted efforts, everybody, because it will mean we have to plant 2 billion trees within this period, and so we have to consider where we planted these trees. First of all, we look at the forests which are already there. They have already been captured in the 6%. So even if you want to plant all the areas within the natural, the gazetted forest, they will not count to increasing the 10%. What will count is if we plant trees on the private people's farms and also in arid, semi-arid areas. And this is where we are calling all the parties to be involved. The church has a lot of land which we can also use to plant trees, because once you plant trees, you'll be working towards increasement of forest cover. The national government has come up with the 10% forest strategy, and it outlines the activities that we need to do. Some of the activities need to be done by the national government, others will be done by the county government, but all put together is that we have really to plant more trees. We also have to ensure that we are not also destroying what has been planted. And I would like, because I'm a forester, I would like to be clear that we should not just plant but grow trees. What has been happening in this nation, Reverend Lucy, is that we have a situation where we plant so many trees every year, but how many survive? Yeah, because once you plant trees, you have to nurture it, you have to tend, you have to protect this tree, to a point that the trees, we know that it is established when it gets to about 3 years. That's the time you can know that it is safe. But what we do, we plant trees, and then we have a lot of fanfare that we have planted 1 million trees. But at the end of the day, you find livestock comes, they eat all the trees, and you end up with no trees. So we need to actually grow trees, not just planting.
Wow, that's a new one, Dr. That it's one thing to plant, it's another thing to actually grow
the trees.
Wow, and maybe that's where we go wrong. Because we, at least as Kenyans, we've had the call, and we can say that we're not doing so badly. We see people planting. When we have special events, as we encouraged, we plant a tree. as a church, as a Presbyterian church, we know that there's a million tree initiative, and in every one of our presbyteries, in our parishes, in our congregations, we are taking that initiative seriously. And when we have special occasions, we also mark those with trees. But we need to hear that message that we not only need to plant, but we need to grow.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. So are there ways, Daktari, through which people, individuals can also benefit from, from growing trees or participating in these initiatives?
This is also very good. We are advancing tree growing to be another alternative competitive land use option. Because the land use option which are known here, we know agriculture, we know housing, we know those type of land use option or livestock. But tree growing can also be a land use option. We can do growing of trees as investment. And this is where we are coming up with what we are calling commercial forestry. And commercial forestry is where you go to an area, you make sure that you plant trees and plant the right trees. Because there's another problem we have is planting the wrong species at the right place. So there is something we call species site matching to ensure that what you are planting fits in the right place. And once you know it fits in the right place, then make sure also that you plant quality material. If you are doing farming, and I know you do farming, you go and buy hybrid seeds. So for trees also, there is hybrid quality seeds. And that is what we were seeing this morning, that we need to think about how do we ensure that we have quality seeds. And that in itself can be an enterprise of producing seeds. Then you can go in to have an enterprise for raising seedlings. And this is where we have a number of people who have tree nurseries where they can raise material for people to plant, because we need to have material for planting. And when you are raising these seedlings, also be careful. Raise those seedlings which are in high demand. They are what we call high quality trees. Like there are trees like in the drylands we have now Mokau, Meria Vokansai. There is sandalwood, which is also in very high demand. And so if we can raise high quality seeds and also combine with fruit trees, because even the propagation properties are the same, then you can have an enterprise called tree and fruit growing nursery as an enterprise. The next enterprise you can go a notch higher and now start what we call woodlots. You can set land aside and you start a woodlot. And that woodlot, it will be contributing towards 10% forest cover. Because you say, what is a forest? It's a definition. Forest in Kenya, the way we define it, is an area which is 0.5 hectare. If you have an area which is 0.5 hectare, and you have trees which are of 2 meters, and you have a canopy cover of 15%, that qualifies to be a forest. So even when you have your own forest, you can even register as a forest owner. We are talking of 0.5 is just about 1.5 acres. So you can be able to grow trees, and once you target the right species also, the right species which can match with that environment, then within a period of 10 to 15 years, you can be sure that you can be able to earn. And some of the studies we have seen, in some of the areas, like I go to Laikipia where we don't have enough rainfall, farmers grow maize, but out of 10 seasons, 8 seasons fail. But if you plant trees and the trees are established themselves, then you are sure that you get a crop, and at the end of the day, you can reap benefits. So in commercial forestry, we are talking of, let's take care of the environment, let's have 10% tree cover, but at the same time, let's have money in the pockets of farmers, money in the pocket of entrepreneurs, money in the pocket of organization as we do business of forestry.
Wow. A 10-year, a 15-year plan, as we also contribute to you know, the growing of the forest cover. I mean, it's good to know that it's a two-way thing. We are helping ourselves corporately, we're also helping ourselves individually. And on that note, we want to take a short break, but as we go on break, we'd want to watch a clip because Daktari earlier mentioned that we had visited the seed the extraction and processing unit of KEFRI. We visited that earlier. Would like you to watch this short clip, which is very, very educative. Remember that this program is also about education, about creating awareness, building courage, resilience, and also hope. And there is a lot of hope in the work that KEFRI is doing. Please watch this.
Welcome to KEFRI. KEFRI is Kenya Forestry Research Institute, and KEFRI is involved in forest research and dissemination in forest and arid natural resources. So I'm delighted to talk about environmental stewardship. And if you go to Genesis, environmental stewardship started when God was creating. He created everything, including even the trees. And one of the things that was created for trees are seeds. Because for us to talk about environment, to talk about forestry, the first thing we have to know is to get quality seeds. And KEFRI is tasked by the government to produce quality seeds for this country. And right now, our target for seed production is 150 tons, metric tons per year. And so where do we get these seeds? We get these seeds from seed stands. We have also seed orchard, and we have people who are trained to collect these seeds. And once they collect these seeds, they are brought here to the seed extraction center. And so I want to introduce my colleague, Dr. Eston Mutito, who will take you through what they do once the seeds comes here. And then what do we do to make sure that quality seeds are produced. So Dr. Eston?
Yeah, my name is Dr. Eston Mutitu. I'm the Regional Director, the Central Higher Eco Region, one of the 5 eco-regional programs that are undertaken by KEFRI countrywide. The Central Higher Eco Region research program covers about 13 counties in the Mount Kenya Aberdare region. It stretches right from Machakos County all the way to Lower Samburu County. Those counties that are inside that area, that is the area that is served for forestry research and development by this region. It is one of the biggest compared to others that are situated in Lodiani, Gende, Maseno, and Kitui. On the key area of research, remember most of the trees are actually planted in the Central Highlands of Kenya. This region then serves to be able to meet the demand for all the tree seed that we are supposed to be planting, particularly in this region and outside the region itself. So one of the key things we do is to be able to meet enough seeds that can be able to produce enough seedling to meet the 10% tree cover that is enshrined in our 2010 Constitution, Article 69 of this country. So we have gone on increasing our production of seeds right from when this seed center started with 8 tons, and we are currently targeting to collect 160 metric tons to be able to meet a 2 billion seeding production for this country to meet the 10% tree cover. The seeds are collected from high value areas or areas that have been selected. These are areas that are sort of called seed orchards for very high quality germplasm. We also collect from areas that are seed stands or areas that have been identified by our tree breeders as the most acceptable areas that have got high genetic selection for high quality seed. The seeds, once they are collected by our team of seed collectors who are well trained in seed correction, tree cribbing, and how to harvest those seeds so that they come here as quality, then they are ferried from those correction sites, the seed orchards, the seed stands, with well documentation And once they arrive here, then they are taken through a processing process until we get very clean seed. In front of me are what we call the drying beds. These drying beds that you see here, for example, I'm currently holding some nuts. And these nuts are coming from croton, one of the most important trees that is actually planted both on farm. And when they come, they are collected from the field. As you can see them, they are sort of fruits and they have matured, and they now need to go through these dry beds so that they dry, and then they can now be able to be split and seed is actually produced. So most of the seeds that we collect come when it's not completely free dry. Though it is mature, it need to go through these dry beds that you see us having them here, so that they dry completely, and once they have dried, then they can be extracted and be processed so that they are refined. So this is one of the example of the seeds that we have been collecting here, called Croton megarocarpa, widely planted on farm, particularly for various uses, adds manure to the soil. Also very important as a shade tree, and mostly particularly in grazing areas. So this is one of the most important seed that currently you have actually seen us. You can see some of them are covered. They are covered just in case it rains. They are not really rained on, because here is sun drying. We are not drying using any other facility. And what we have here are the processing machines again. These processing machines, the seeds go through here, and they are loaded through this machine so that they can now be able to crack, or they are also being able to be sieved to a certain level. As you can see here, they have just cleared some debris. The debris that are here have come out of this machine. They come through here, and once they are poured here, all the seeds is actually collected at a very more clean seed that you actually get. This is another area. When you have some seeds, particularly like those ones of eucalyptus, they still want to undergo another sieving for us to be able to clean the best quality. So they are mostly taken through this machine, and this machine uses gravity, is the one that puts the seeds. Once they are put here, they go through these trays that you see here as it continues sieving, so that you are able to get very, very high quality clean seeds. From there, once they have been cleaned by this gravity flow, then they come to the next machine. And this machine also uses sucking. The seed is put through this plant, it goes through a sieving system here, and through sucking gravity, the waste comes to this item that you actually see here. So the seed that come out now is actually very clean. I want to demonstrate. This is seed here that I'm holding, which has not gone through the two gravity or the sucking sieve. And you can see a lot of debris inside here. This is seed for eucalyptus. Once we take it through these two machines that have actually now been acquired by Carefree, so that we get high quality, what do we really get out of it? So I've told you, out of this, maybe about 50–60% is actually debris or material that is not seed material, that has come from the other machine and coming through here. So we need to sort out that using these two machines. This is 100% clean seed, and you can now be able to see here we have 90–80% of seed material, completely black, and remember there you are seeing like it is brown. So this is very high quality seed now that we can actually now be able to sell to our people, so that we can now be able to meet the demand for seed in this country.
So the main tests we do here are purity test. Purity test determines the number of seeds in a kilo compared to chaff, or what we call impurities. Yes, here we are testing the germination capacity of the seed. You will see that they are about 10 seeds here now. The reason why they are 10 is that we start with a hardened seed, and every seed that germinates, we pick it and put it away. So this is a continuing process. So we are remaining with about 10 seeds. We are observing whether they will germinate. I think we'll have an opportunity to see a good germination test without removing in the glass house. So with that combination of purity and number of seeds per kilo, and the germination we get here, we are able to provide customers with the correct number of seeds. So those are the main seeds, main trials we do. Yeah, that one you can capture the germinating seed. And for a seed to germinate, it has to be given the right pre-sowing treatment. You can see this seed is a hard seed. So for it to germinate, we have to pre-treat it. The main pre-treatment we do for tree seed include soaking in water or cracking the seed so that it can absorb some water to germinate.
When the law is broken,
hatuwezi kunyamaza.
The quest for justice is on course.
Stop killing us!
The Constitution is the mother of all.
I'm ready to fight for justice.
Open the door. Open and jail me also.
When there is a conflict, all eyes turn on the law.
I'll challenge the National Land Commission. Kuja hapa site.
This tall building belonged to the family. He changed almost everything.
Kamati na waletwe mara moja kotini.
The oppressed want justice. The accused want justice.
Tuliachana na 1996 na mimi kwa Attorney General sijafanya ya hivyo sikuwa nimekata.
On Know Your Laws, we educate you on matters to do with law, justice and legal affairs.
Once an adoption order is given, that child becomes your child. It is not reversible.
Join me as we break down on the complex and simple laws.
If someone who sold that particular property to you was not the genuine owner, that transaction can be said to be a fraudulent transaction.
The application of the law doesn't select the rich or the poor. All want to unlearn and learn new laws.
Welcome back. This is the Rays of Hope program, and we are in the context of the Pcmf, that is Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship, Mission Week. And in this week, the theme that is guiding us is taken from 1 Timothy 6:6 about godliness with contentment. That is great gain, actually. And in that context, today we are looking at environmental stewardship. We have visited KEFRI, and we are with the Deputy Director of Socioeconomic Policy and Governance, and that is none other than Dr. Joram K. Kagombe. And just in case you've just joined us, and we are getting a lot of insights from him. Now, before we went for break, we were at the point where we're talking about the 0.5 hectare piece of land where an individual can actually plant trees and even register. But you also talked about the quality of the seeds and also matching that with where maybe we are planting that. Where can we find the expertise? Because sometimes we do these things out of ignorance and we don't get good results.
One of the things is when you are buying seeds, especially when you are buying from our seed center, we have information in the seed packet indicating where that seed can be planted. And also it's good to engage our officers because when you engage them, they will advise you the right species to grow within a certain area. Also within our KEFRI website, we have an application of species site matching, whereby when you go to that application and you type where you are coming from and the area, then the application will give you the possible species for that area.
Wow.
So that is already within our website.
Wonderful. It's good to know that that is information that is out there.
Yeah, it's out there.
And it's free.
It's free.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Earlier on, when we were off here, you did mention about an upcoming conference. Would you like to tell us something about that?
Yeah, we have an upcoming, the first ever Kenya Commercial Forest Investment and Conference and Expo, which will take place here in Kefri from 23rd to 26th of November. And the aim of the conference is to showcase the opportunities which are there in commercial forestry. We are bringing in the various actors in this sector so that they can discuss the gains that we have done. There are also challenges which are there. We are also bringing in the financial people so that we can also discuss issue of financing because financing is also a main issue. And this will also will go together with an expo where various entities will showcase the fishing machines for wood processing and also various strategies people engage in commercial forestry. Like one of the strategies is having tree growing cooperatives which are already in place in Nyandarua and Kware. And this is something which is also good because when you are growing trees, you may just be growing a small area. It may not be feasible to market when the quantities are small. But when you join together, and you know the cooperative movement, what it has done in this nation, we can be able to market together, we can be able to buy equipment, processing materials together, then that way we shall gain more and have money in our pocket as we improve the environment. Yeah.
Wow, and obviously in our philosophy we know how to pull together.
Yeah.
And so that is one way of pulling together.
Yeah, sure.
And now mentioning about, you know, that kind of a conference, the first ever, while earlier we visited, while we were visiting the seed extraction and processing unit, we did hear that actually we are the second in Africa. I think sometimes it's good to take time and celebrate the good things that are happening. What does that mean, being second?
Yeah, the seed extraction and process unit, which is in Kenya, it's a second to just the only one, the one which is number one is in South Africa. We are second. We actually provide tree seeds to the region. Even people from Ethiopia, Sudan, they come here for seeds, and we are able to export the seeds for them. And this is a facility which is good because at the end of the day, we need to get to a notch higher. Actually, where we are now getting to is we are getting to a level where we want to do tree seed certification. And also we want to do tree nursery certification, such that the people who are producing can ensure that what they are producing is of high quality. Those who have tree seeds nurseries out there, we shall be checking and doing quality check for the nursery. And so if you are certified, then you can be able to market. And this is the same thing that is happening with the fruit trees through Horticultural Association of Kenya. So this is also being done for trees that we also want to ensure what we are planting in our fields is of quality. The one thing about trees, they take a long time to mature. They are long term. So it's important that what you are planting is also of good material. Because if we plant seeds which are of low quality, we shall end up spoiling the germ plasm for the whole country, and we shall have vegetation which is like dwarf, which is not good for us. Yeah.
So quality.
Yeah.
It matters a lot.
Yeah, it matters.
And we want to congratulate you for a job well done. I mean, putting us in the global on the global map.
Yeah.
These are things we don't get to hear normally, and these are narratives that we need to tell. Good things are happening in our country, and we do celebrate this. Now, climate change has been a big headache. Could you give us the global as well as the the local perspective on this? What's going on? Where are we at?
Climate change, as you say, it's a major issue in the world. Right now, this week, we are having COP26, and this is Conference of Parties 26, which is happening in Glasgow, in Scotland, and also good. Scotland, you know, that's where our Presbyterian, we have our origin there. And what is happening is the head of states, about 100 head of states and other parties are there to discuss on the way forward after the Paris Agreement, because one of the major problems is that our climate is changing. And there were some times when we had a lot of discussion whether it is changing or not, but now everybody agrees, even US, which was not with us, they are with us, that it is changing. There is a global warming, which is going up at a very high level, and this global rise in temperature, it's a big concern. And when we have this rise in temperature, it leads to a lot of other consequences. Like one of the things which will happen is the glaciers will start melting, and this leads to rise in sea level. Rise in sea level for some countries, like in Netherlands, which are almost 80% is at the sea level, it means that there will be no country called Netherlands if we are not careful. And here in the local context, just our lakes, Naivasha, and even Nakuru, Baringo, what has happened in the last 2 years, rising the level of the sea, to a point that some of the people, some of the homes have been submerged. You go to Nakuru, the Kenya Wildlife Service offices, which were very good, are already submerged. So we are not talking of theories, we are talking of what can happen. The other thing is there is an increase in greenhouses emission, which are coming out of pollution, out of industrialization, and this has a big impact. Now, what it means when we have the impacts of the climate change, we have what we call extremes. If it is rainfall, there is a lot of rainfall to a point of getting floods. If it is drought, there is a lot of drought. So those extremes become a problem. There is also a change in seasons. Right now, we are now in November, and in the area of Nairobi, we don't have rains. We planted, even me, I planted about almost 1.5 months ago. And the crops, they are not yet germinated. So we don't have seasons as we used to know them. And that is a big problem as we advance. Then there is flowering patterns for various trees. And this is also very important. The flowering patterns, once the temperature increases, they also change. And this is also go with also the insect and pest, because when the temperature increases, you find the insects and pests which were originally used to that habitat now change from one habitat to the other. And when they go to the other habitat, there are no natural enemies. So you find the increment of epidemic, for there are a lot of manifestation of insects, and then they start now causing problems. So these are the problems that we are having. In Paris Agreement in 2015, all countries agreed that we should keep the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. We should not go beyond 1.5 degrees. And there were measures countries came up. They are called national determined contribution. Each of the countries said what it will do. But now, 8 years down the line, the studies which are coming up, it's showing that we may not achieve this. We may get to 3 degrees rise. And if we get to 3 degrees rise, it's complete disaster. And the issue with the climate change, the people who are most vulnerable are the poor people. Because the poor people are the ones who will plant and they will not be able to harvest. Those who have money, they will be able to irrigate their crops. But the poor person who depends on rain-fed agriculture cannot be able to harvest. They cannot be able even to get access to resources. So they are the most vulnerable people. And that's why, as we talk about being our neighbor's keeper in the Bible, then we have to think about that poor person. How do we cushion that person? And that's why we have to take individual roles, collective roles, to ensure that we mitigate the issues of climate change. And the other thing is also we plant trees, because the issue of climate change will be handled only two ways. Either by reducing the emission or planting. When we plant more trees, we have areas which can absorb this emission. That's a two way to go about it. And so we have a big problem, but thank God that there are policies, countries are committing themselves, and there is still hope. There is hope. Because even countries like USA, which was had gotten out of Paris Agreement, they are back. And we look forward that we should be able to not only multiply, but also subdue. Because I mentioned about subduing. We must subdue the environment God has given us.
Wonderful. It's good for you to bring to light the fact that these matters are urgent.
Yeah, they are very urgent.
They are of grave importance. It's affecting all of us. And no country is exempted from this. And even at the local level, as you're saying, we are feeling it. We no longer can tell the seasons. We used to know that this one would happen on 15th of March, would have rain. I mean, it used to be very precise, but we no longer know that. As we start drawing to an end,
this is maybe where I could mention, as you say, it's global.
It's global.
So what is happening is that the developed countries, because they are the biggest emitters of carbon, what they are doing, they are also offsetting by giving funds which can help the developing country to plant trees. We are now talking of carbon trading, carbon market. So these are some of the incentives which are coming up, which will help us also to have more trees, so that we can also contribute to the carbon sink. The other emergent thing which is coming is what we call payment for ecosystem services, whereby the people who are using the resources have a role and responsibility to plow back. You plow back so that you can also be able to contribute to the environment. Let's have incentives. If you are taking care of the environment, you are taking care of the forest, you can give incentives. If you are in Nairobi and you are drinking good water, can you also give an incentive to the person who is next to the forest and who gets the greatest threat? If the forest, the elephants come out, this is the person who suffers. So let's also give an incentive so that they can conserve, so that they stop growing narrow roots along the rivers and grow maybe suitable species like bamboo, because that way we shall reduce the erosion. When we reduce the erosion, we also improve the environment. So the incentives can be local, they can be international. International is in terms of carbon market. The local incentives could be incentives where the companies like Kengen and the others who are also generating, using the water from the forest, can also plow back. And that way, we shall have a situation where we have a win-win for everybody.
Wonderful, and thank you for all the insights. We really must congratulate you and, confess that we've enjoyed good, good air here. It's clean, and for that reason we would want to come back to you actually for more information, like you mentioned the Paris Agreement and other agreements. As citizens and as also as leaders, we also need to keep our leaders, responsible and accountable for the things that concern all of us. And so we want to hear what is this that we must do as countries and all that. So before we wind up, we would want you to give us a parting shot, because we are in the PCMF Mission Week. What is our responsibility as Christians and also as Christian leaders in environmental stewardship? Just 1 minute.
Yeah, we are stewards, and God has given us that responsibility of being stewards. And in the Christian context, if there is anybody who should be talking about stewardship, it's a Christian. And this issue of stewardship, we should talk about it. Talk about it in the pulpit. When the ministers, the preachers are talking about it, let's preach about good stewardship. Because there are other sins which people talk about, but the sins of stewardship, they don't seem like they are sins. Let's also talk it to our children, even in church school, such that we can bring up a generation that can take care of the environment. And then Let's also support the institutions which have been put to enforce this issue of stewardship. And we should all work together. And as a church, we have a role and responsibility to actually create awareness and talk about this good environmental stewardship to our people and to all Christians. That will bring glory and honor to our God.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for your time, your precious time, and we are better off now with all the information that you've given us, but also we feel that we need more time with you and with your officers, you know, to learn about this. And viewers, I believe you're blessed. I believe you have learned something, and we shall become good and better stewards, because that is what God expects of us. And again, we are saying that godliness with contentment is great gain. Let's not be greedy. Let's not spoil what God has entrusted to us. Also, let us keep our people accountable, our institutions, because we are also in spheres of influence. Wherever we are, let them be responsible. Let us all take responsibility, because it affects us all. So may God bless you. Take care. Keep hope alive. And one way of keeping hope alive is taking care of our environment. God bless you.